Hey everybody, it's Michelle again. I am back with the next story in our Reddit series where we find out firsthand people's paranormal accounts that made them become believers in the paranormal. So these are all short stories that I took off of Reddit. So this is number 2. If you didn't catch number 1, please go back and find that. It's the one kind of like in a black and white filter, sort of like this one almost is. I think it's slightly different, but go back and check that out. And here's number 2. So I am reading this just about exactly how it's written. Let's hear story number 2. Copying an experience I had from a couple years ago. To preface this, prior to this event, I was a hardcore atheist. My view has changed pretty dramatically now. I don't know what to believe, but I know that there is something more than meets the eye. I had something happen that I can't explain. I had a very large kidney stone. It's pretty routine for me. I get them a lot. So we went ahead and scheduled a surgery. They broke up the stone with a laser and put a stent in my tube to help the fragment pass. I was recovering at home when my temperature started rising, and I started having pain worse than anything I've ever felt. I took pain medication, and it didn't help at all. I sat there for several hours, kind of delirious with pain and fever. My husband had to work the next morning, so I told him to go to bed, and I figured that I would be fine, and I just needed to go ahead and get through the pain. He had been in bed for about 15 minutes when he comes back to the living room and asks what I want. I was totally confused and asked what he meant. He said that he had heard me knocking on the wall and wanted to know what I needed. And I told him I didn't knock on the wall, and he said I should go back and that he should go back to bed. And so he did. All right, sorry, I had to open the second page here. I sat there for a while longer, but started getting really nauseous. I was also thinking about him hearing the knocking. I'm not normally superstitious, but something about that just felt off to me. So I decided to go to the ER. I woke him up and off we went. After a long series of tests, they discovered that I had a staph infection, blood poisoning, essentially probably caused a stent that had been contaminated. They gave me an IV bag of antibiotics and some much stronger oral antibiotics. They couldn't admit me because my specialist didn't have admitting privileges with that hospital. They suggested that I go to the hospital where he had admitting privileges, and I didn't really want to do that, so I went back home. That's when the knocking began in earnest, all over our house. Inside, outside, different areas of the house for 2 straight days. The entire time I ran a high fever. My fever stayed around 101 to 102, and the whole time the knocking. I was so bad that we thought something was messing with us, but it was someone messing with us. And how were they able to knock on our bedroom doors? So I accidentally cut the end of this story off, but I read it all. So basically, now after all this knocking, she goes back to the doctor, her doctor, like she was recommended. And as soon as her doctor treats her, she does need further treatment, her infection's really bad, treats her, she comes home and rests and recovers. The knocking never happens again, and completely stops. So they basically felt like the knocks might have been like a warning that she was in trouble, that she was, needed to get medical care and had been putting it off. So kind of interesting. What are your thoughts? Kind of a different paranormal event than I've seen before, but I'd love to hear what you think about it. Let me know in the comments, please. Let me know when you're ready for the next story.